So this is the opening of the regularly scheduled Norton Conservation Commission meeting, and it is Monday, August 12th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. And as we are obligated to read the preamble because of this being a remote meeting. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 bill extending several COVID-era policies and programs by allowing virtual meetings to continue from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025. This meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties, right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or by pressing *9 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time by technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Our members participating tonight are myself, Julian Kadish, Chair, Lisa Carosa, Vice Chair, Paxton Halshaw, Mark Fernandez, Joseph Carvalho, and it appears that we don't have Tom Vest and Dan Pearson tonight. We also have our director, John Thomas, and our assistant, Megan Perot. So our first item on the agenda of new public hearings is, does not have a file number yet. It is 266 Taunton Avenue. A notice of intent concerning work proposed to raise an existing dwelling and build a new single-family house with an associated septic system and lawn within 100 feet of a wetland resource. And do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, good evening. Craig Siganowski of RIM Engineering.
You probably have sharing capabilities, and if you can bring up the plan.
Just wanted to say that I did receive the file number last week through the email. And
okay.
250-1160. I'll share the plan. Everybody see that?
Not quite yet, but yes. Okay, you may have to enlarge it just a little bit.
Uh, 266 Taunton Avenue. Existing house is built in 1940. It's a lot that received a variance for the lot frontage, and it goes back 1,064 feet away from Taunton Avenue, and the vast majority of the property is wetlands. So we have a, you see there's the plan enlarged enough now?
Yeah, and just looking at the frontage, that is, I can't tell if it's the sum of 51.81 and, I mean, is it about 100 feet or is it about 50? No, it must be.
What are we talking about? Sorry.
The frontage here, the
frontage.
The actual front.
It's 108 feet roughly, whereas 150 was private. But that went through the zoning board of appeals back several years ago. It's been approved as a buildable lot. The building inspector has reviewed it, and based on the variance, the lot is a buildable lot. So we have bordering vegetated wetlands across the street, southerly south of Taunton Avenue. And then the existing house, which is, I left light here, but there's a garage here with a driveway, and the original house sits about here. And then bordering vegetated wetlands to the easterly side of the sites. Like I said, from here back about 800 feet. And then on the neighboring property to the south, we located what is a potential vernal pool. We sort of mapped it out as it goes back towards the property behind. It's around 12,000 square feet in area. We couldn't actually do topography in the center to see how much it holds. As when we tried to put the measuring rod in, it sunk down about 3 feet without any pressure on it, so it's a fair. So what we have is a proposed new house sitting here. It's 48 by 20 by 36 with a two-car garage in the front, which just shows up over here. A driveway coming out and a new septic system. The town doesn't have any evidence or any plans of the original septic, but we found what might be a cesspool back here. It's sort of on the property line. It could have been a well. Whatever it is will be abandoned. So we had found 2-minute material, nice gravel, and we did not hit any groundwater down in our test holes. We went down 10 feet, no water found, no modeling, no evidence of water. So for the roof water, we're proposing 2 dry wells here and here. That will handle all the roof water. They're 6 feet diameter with stone around and about 4 feet deep. Typical septic system with a 1,500 gallon 2-chamber septic tank going to 3 trenches. In the back, we have we've already staked out the sediment controls, and these trees were designated to be removed. And these trees here, which are not on our property, my client was going to talk to the neighbor to see if he would allow these to be taken down, as they are very large pine trees. I don't know where that actually sits at this moment, but I do know that he had already started to do the clearing. I think John had done a site walk before he went on vacation and reviewed our wetlands flags and was all right with what we had previously shown. This was not flagged, but he had noted it in his on his field notes and asked us to flag it. The 100-foot buffer comes to the corner of this house right here, about where the dry well will be. 100 feet from this wetlands goes through the septic area, where it'd be 73 feet with our septic system, where state regulation requires 50 feet minimum. And then the 100-foot buffer from the rear encompasses the front of the house. So the majority of the lot is under the 100-foot buffer zone. I don't know, my client mentioned that he was given permission to begin demolishing the house. I don't really know where that sits at this time. I just found out today and I wasn't able to get out there. So I'm not sure exactly what status that has. So open it up to any questions.
All right, just for bookkeeping, let it be noted that Dan Pearson has joined the meeting. And so, John, you have any comments about this?
Yeah, this is an updated plan that we received that I haven't seen yet. So just looking at it, some administrative things to take into consideration, Craig, is that you need the signature of Mr. Garrity for this application if you're going to include those trees in that limit of work.
Okay.
Because it's his property and you have to add the assessor's parcel for this permit. So you have 2 options. You can either wait to close this and then basically go through the parameters and figure out what your limit of work is. Otherwise, you're going to have to somehow you're not going to be able to change your limit of work once we issue an order. So what I'm getting at is it's probably in your best interest for Mr. George to figure out, can he actually remove those trees and gain access and entry to his neighbor's property to do that work. If not, then I would suggest keeping to your own property and just doing the work that you can do at this time, then potentially come back for another filing for the adjacent property. There's two ways that you can do this. I think it's probably in your best interest to just stick with what you can do and what you know. That way, for instance, it expedites this process. And yes, before I did leave on vacation, I did tell the landowner of the property that the vermin-infested residence could be demolished because the Board of Health wanted it. It was basically an emergency removal because it was infested with rats. So they wanted it gone as soon as possible. So I said that as long as the erosion controls are in and there's minimal grading, then for instance, you guys could do the demo.
Okay, yeah, it would make sense to remove the possibility of those trees coming down and wait for the future when the house is built.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to kind of make this an easy transition for yourself and your client.
All right, any questions from commission members?
So I just have a question about, you mentioned the trees are going to be removed just because of their size. What is that? Can you put that into context? Do you mean they're relatively large in proximity to the house you're building, and that's why you need to take them down?
Correct. You're talking on the neighbor's property?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That would be the reasoning for it, yes.
Okay.
But it could also be trimmed. Anything that's on our property could simply be trimmed. And
Okay. The other administrative thing that you want to look at, if you do include them and you have his signature, you might have to see if your abutter notification was correct, if you're now going to include this as locus. So, that's all.
Correct, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions from commission members? If not, any questions from any member of the audience, and you can either go into the reactions button, and I think there's a hand raised there, or you can just take your mic off mute and just speak up. So if there are no questions, then John, everything is in order with the exception of the defining the limit of work. So, and that, it seems, will require a continuation.
Hello?
Yes, so it looks like the computer labeled Tom George, you're speaking. If you want to ask your question, go ahead.
Yes, I'm the owner of the property. And I've talked to the owners with the other tall pine trees, and we're not going to remove those. So those will not be in this order of condition or notice of intent.
Okay, so you're referring to the three trees labeled on the adjoining property, I'm assuming.
That's correct.
Okay, so I can remove those, excuse me, I can remove those trees from the plan and resubmit tomorrow. So we'd ask that you could close the hearing with that condition.
So John, are you okay with the closure? I guess it's 14 days between now and the next meeting on August 26th.
I am okay with it if the rest of the commission is okay with it.
All right.
Just to clarify, so they filed just for the lot, not the abutting lot, so that part's clean. We just need an updated plan, right?
That's correct. They're just gonna
Okay.
nix the work that's being
Yeah.
done on Donald E. Garrity's property.
Okay. I'm okay with that then. If it was the other way around, it would be a little messier to fix the file, but
All right, well, it looks like then if there are no further questions or comments, we're ready for a motion to close.
Julian, I just wanted to mention that one of the abutters sent in a letter that I added to the Google Drive, and I just want to be sure that it was seen.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure.
I reviewed that letter, and now, I mean, the request was that the trees not be taken down, and so it looks like the neighbor, the trees on a neighboring lot, will not be taken down. But the owner of the property has the option to remove those trees, and I'm assuming that's part of the application. Is that correct, John?
That is correct. The work that is at the proposed house number 266, all those trees that are highlighted, those are the ones being requested for removal.
Well, in this case, it just looks like two
Yeah,
remain.
the 40-inch white pine and the 20, I think it's 8 or 26-inch white pine.
Yeah.
so is the abutter referencing the plans on the abutting lot or the locus on 266? Can we tell what the wording is?
It was actually quite vague. It didn't address the specific trees. It just mentioned that the preference is. I mean, the wording was that the trees have probably been there 100 years and may well be there another 100. So there was no specification of
Okay.
exactly which trees.
So for the record, we should probably note that person's name and address.
Yeah, I don't have Google Drive up at the moment. I don't know if that's something.
I've got it up. It was the executrix of the estate of Donald Garrity at 270 Taunton Ave. So likely the three that are
Okay.
removed from the plan.
There's a hint. Yep. Okay. So it was the abutting lot, most likely. Okay. Okay.
All right. So if there are no further questions, we can consider a motion to close the hearing for file number 250-1160.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Dan. Roll call vote, beginning with Paxton and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
Lisa and Joe.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan? It looks like a yes there. And I'll throw in a yes. So the motion carries. The public hearing is closed, so we'll be able to act on a order of conditions next time. Thank you, Craig. So our next hearing doesn't have a file number displayed on my agenda copy, but it relates to 171 West Main Street, and ANRAD. Do we have a representative of that applicant?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. Brian Dunn with MBL in Development and Permitting.
So
We do have a DP file number.
okay.
That's 250-1161.
1161.
250-1161.
I'm assuming you can share screens now, and let me just say this is a huge collection of parcels. What is the total acreage here, roughly?
Total acreage is, make sure I'm saying it right, 139.5 acres.
the amount that is on, oh, it looks like, at least on my screen, Mr. Dunn has disappeared. Guess we'll have to wait for him to reconnect. I guess his computer did not want to share screens with all of us. So you transiently disappeared. I don't know if you had difficulty with.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, so I don't know if that was your end or my end, so. So I'm gonna share the screen, Mr. Chairman. Can everybody see this now?
Not quite yet.
Okay, let me know when you can see it.
It's not coming yet, but a huge amount of these parcels is
Okay,
labeled as wetland. So I'm assuming we're going to be, well, you know, once the plan appears, you can. All right, we have a plan. It's very small, so.
okay, so I can, well, I'm trying to show you the entire 139.5 acres right now. So the entire 139 acres is outlined in the purple line. If you look at the plans that are on the screen, the purple with the black line underneath it is the property line. The green line is the wetlands border, or the limit of the bordering vegetated wetlands. Then we have the red highlighted area, which is the 25-foot buffer, and then the yellow is the 100-foot buffer. And then we have in blue or azure, the FEMA flood zone area. So as you can see, the differences in the colors of the wetland area here, the buffer zone in yellow, the 25-foot buffer zone here. The green line is the wetlands that we've field located, and the blue line here is the limit of the floodplain. So this is an overall index plan, if you want to call it, to show how we cut out the sheets. And then we individually went and cut out each sheet at a smaller scale so that you could see those plans more clearly. And you can see the wetland flags here for the isolated vegetated wetlands in this area here. We've got the area of the intermittent stream and the flow arrows of that stream with the buffer zones. We've got West Main Street layout here, Messenger, which is a private way. And then, again, the wetlands that we've located and has been delineated on the ground. And you can see the FEMA flood zone in the blue on this plan. And then we continually cut out the sheets at that scale. You can see they all go together. Same information on this plan as we go further back into the property. And then over on the if you want to call it the northwest side of the property, West Main Street is way down here now. And you can see the FEMA floodplain in blue. The wetlands in this area, the green line is the wetland line, the red is that 25-foot buffer zone, and the yellow, the 100-foot buffer zone. And then we're going east now through the property, same stuff. Again, further east again. And then you can see Robin circle down here. And, further eastward of the property here, we got probably one more sheet to show. for the top part of the site at the very northerly section before it opens up a little bit more. And then this is the northerly section of the property. In the purple line, you can see the utility easement that goes through the property. So we tried to detail this, large parcel of land as best as we could in multiple sheets. And the commission may remember we were in front of you for a single-family home in this area, and this wetland line and resource area and this wetland line here was approved by the commission with this DEP file number. So we included it here because it was really like on the edge of the property. So we wanted to make sure that we included that information to you, Mr. Chairman. It is my understanding that your agent wants to walk the site and then possibly tell us where he would like to have some transects done if required. And if that's the case, we can have our botanist go out there and do those transects if it's really needed. If not, we'd be looking for, John to take a walk onto the property and take a look at the wetland line that we've shown on here on the plans, and then eventually have you issue an ORAD, Mr. Chairman.
I just have, and this is really not, this will be determined by John in the field, but if you go up front near West Main Street, there was an area, I think and so you have an area that has a buffer, and then this outlined green in front does not have a buffer, and the implication is there's no hydrologic connection with either of those two wetlands of that.
Yeah, because these are isolated. These are what we call isolated federal, vegetated wetlands. So they're not connected to anything else. So that's why they don't have any buffer zones, Mr. Chairman. Isolated federal wetlands do not have buffer zones.
But being certain there really is not a hydrologic connection between either of those two wetland areas.
Based on the wetland report and our botanist, there is no hydraulic connection between those three systems that you see there to the larger systems.
Yeah. And so, John, you're going to have a lot of walking.
Yeah, I will. But it's only going to be the areas that are flagged. There are a lot of wetlands that they're not seeking confirmation of, so we will only be confirming the ones that are flagged for this whole plan set. Additionally, I would also, Brian, take a look at the mapped potential vernal pools and certified vernal pools and make sure that those are shown in the areas where Natural Heritage maps those.
Yeah, I think we did that. There are some potential ones, but they're off-site of us. Let me get to that map. Hold on, if I may. I'm going to stop sharing and share the ANRAD application. Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Okay, can everybody see this right now? Let me know when you're ready.
Yep, yeah, we see it.
Okay, so this is what I call the book report of the ANRAD application, which contains an awful lot of information. As you can see, the list of figures, we've got a site description, resource areas. We've got all of the mapping that's required, the aerial mapping, topo map, flood insurance, natural heritage, critical areas, and soils. we've got our wetland report and our affidavit of service, copies of the checks, and all of the certified mailing receipts. And this is the application that we have to fill out. And hopefully everybody's had a chance to see these documents, correct?
I've seen it.
Okay,
And they were included in the Google Drive, although I'll be honest, and I'm gonna say that, being sure these are filled out correctly is in Megan and John's wheelhouse.
yeah, I would totally agree, but I also would like to say, Mr. Chairman, you've seen our stuff before, you've seen me in front of this commission many times. I'm sure that you have some trust in the information that we send to this commission to be reviewed and approved at this time.
Well, now you're bringing up a major philosophical question. In response, I'm gonna say, no, I don't trust anybody, but I admire quality work.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So aerial mapping, so this is, as you can see, this is, I don't know if it's, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So you can, oops, gonna switch hands now.
So I think the original question had to do with the potential rental pools, so.
Yeah, we're getting there. So this, you can see the vast number of parcels that Valentine Tool owns now in red. All of those parcels in red they own, and so this
So
is,
Brian, I don't mean to, like, I guess, let you know something, but 3 of the parcels that you are looking at or seeking confirmation of have potential vernal pools on them. Mapped by Natural Heritage.
okay. Well, let's look at the map well, this is what we pulled off of the Natural Heritage data right here. So there's one here where my hand is, and there's one here.
Okay, well, I would go on Mass Mapper and get the most updated data because I'm looking at it right now. And potential vernal pools, you've got one on, let's see, what parcel is this? You've got one on parcel 2234. You've got one on parcel 16.2. And it looks like you've got another one on parcel 2242. So I would just go back and do your research and look because, you know, I'm going to want to go take a look at those areas too.
Okay, so no, you know, normally we have. Oh, I'm looking at Mass Mapper right now too, and I see 2 dots, and the 2 dots that I just talked about on Mass Mapper, one is in the West Main Street Conservation Area, and one is in the Leo Yelly Conservation Area. So let me see, that's certified.
And being the conservation director, I know how to do my due diligence. So I'm just letting you know that I see it on Mass Mapper right now. So I'm telling you that you should probably take a look at it and just make sure that the information that you have is updated.
Okay, so there's so there's a couple of potential in one of the wetland systems up at the very north, and you know, one in near that riverfront on 0.
Right. So
170. Those are potential.
they
So
are
normally
potential.
we don't show the potential ones on the
Well, you
map.
should be showing the potential ones because those are important too.
Okay, so we'll make sure that the map is updated with the potential ones.
Well,
So-
while we're on the subject of vernal pools, it's not just what you're only seeing on Mass GIS, what somebody's documented to date. The burden of proof is on the person that did the wetland delineation to determine whether there are other. There could be 10 more vernal pools out there. It's not just whatever Mass GIS says. That's number one. Number two, when was this done? Was it done during the vernal pool season? When was the delineation performed?
Let me just double check the date of the plant, the letter from the botanist.
Is at the tail end of vernal pool season.
Yeah, so it was, late in October and November.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was nowhere near the vernal pool season. It was winter. Towards the winter, fall.
Yeah, so
Oh, December,
October
yeah,
is the
sorry,
fall.
December.
And then we've
Yeah.
got some of it was delineated in December and some in February.
So
So,
that's not during the vernal pool season. So I would
Yeah,
ask that,
I understand that. I know that we asked the botanist about the vernal pools out there. She did not say that she observed any vernal pools, but I can double check with her, and if we need to get a statement from her, we can do that. Not a problem.
Well, let me say, in general, with delineations, we, as a commission, depend on the professionalism of our director. And this is a huge area. So it's going to take a little while for you and John and your botanist to hash all the details out. I think probably most areas there will be no significant dispute or discussion, but I mean, just these areas of potential vernal pools, it's going to take a little while to hash out offline. So my sense is, the focus is on the flagged area, so we'll hear about that. But I don't know if there's any point in going over any more further details without some agreement. That
No, we just need to figure out when John is gonna do his site walk and
right.
the areas he needs transects, and what we can do is I can send the botanist out to these areas of the potential vernal pools and see, at this stage of the season, if there are remnants of vernal pools or anything that could possibly be a vernal pool. Double check that and let you and John let the commission know as well as John.
So this is where it gets kind of tricky, Brian, is we've had this happen before with the vernal pools and the confirmation of them. And in the act, it basically states that, the certification of any vernal pools needs to happen before any filing of a notice of intent application. So just keep that in mind. So if you can't do it now, that's where you kind of are handicapped for any potential development, where you should treat everything that is a potential vernal pool as if it was certifiable. And that's what I try to, suggest to people, is that if you don't know now, it's probably best to be safe rather than sorry, if it does look like it's going to exhibit those sort of characteristics moving forward. So I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, duly noted.
So with the map presented, the work in the field needs to be done. So any further questions or comments? Because it sounds like this is going to be a continuation.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we just need to know when John is going to go out there, and if he needs the botanist to be with him during those days. If not, we just need to know what days he's going out there, so I can let my client know that he will be walking the property, and then whatever areas of the wetland system that John needs a transect on, I just need a copy of that plan so we can send the botanist out to do that transect data and put it together so we can get it in front of the commission.
Why don't I do this? Why don't I take a quick walk through myself, just me, and take a look at the property. Then if I have any sort of concerns or areas we can kind of go to, then I can talk to you and your botanist, and we can go look those over and, try to hash things out in the field. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I just need to know when you're going out there by yourself. So I can tell the
I haven't
client.
looked to see what the weather is this week yet, so, but I will let you know tomorrow.
Okay.
so I have a few questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
John, one clarification. You said you're only gonna look at the flags. You're not gonna look at the upland areas as well? I mean, I assume you're gonna look at everything, right?
Well, I'm gonna look at everything, but I'm only confirming the flag resource areas.
Okay,
If there's anything else that's unmapped, then for instance, I'm gonna note it. But for instance, the ANRAD itself will be strictly by the flagged resource areas. That's what we're confirming. All the other resource areas that they're showing as approximate are not determined under this ANRAD.
Why would that be?
Why? Because you haven't flagged them.
No, with the areas of flooding?
No, the areas that you're showing as approximate, the approximate wetlands that have no flags,
Oh, yeah,
flagging
okay,
or
but the
notes.
other resource areas are part of this ANRAD application.
I'm saying the flagged resource areas. So you're talking about bordering land subject to flooding.
That is correct.
I cannot field review that.
yeah, nor should you. BLSF is based on an elevation.
Yes,
gonna be
I
my
can't
next-
field
So
review that.
Right.
Through the chair, Mr. Chairman, so based on the narrative, we've shown that there is no bordering land subject to flooding at this property. We've done those calculations based on the existing topo. What I'm talking about is that part of an ANRAD process is not just the wetland lines, it's the bordering vegetated wetlands, it's the isolated bordering isolated wetlands, and it's also the limits of flooding that's shown on the FEMA floodplain mapping that we're supposed to show on the plans.
Right, and I
That is the
can't,
resource area. So
I
we're
can't
looking
field
for-
verify that. You have to do that by whatever the calculation is for the FEMA floodplain.
There's no calculations involved in the FEMA floodplain. It's
Okay.
showing what the record information is, just like the vernal pools.
Does
So we take the same data
100-year
from
flood
The
zone exists on the
FEMA
site?
floodplain data, and we put that on our plans. That is part of the resource areas that we're looking to have approved.
So is there
Okay.
a baseline flood? Is there a base flood elevation for the property?
There is not. We're in a zone X of minimal flood.
Zone X is not a
Okay.
floodplain.
Right,
That's
it's 500. That's what's confusing. It's the 500 year. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
It's the 0.2% chance, which is the
That
500.
is correct.
It is not the 100. So
No,
we got to stop calling it the 100. You know, there is no BLSF, so we need to make that clear.
yes. So
It's
we will
all
make
that's
it,
what I said. It's not bordering land subject to flooding. It's the limit of what's mapped as a floodplain, whether it's zone X, zone AE, or zone V. Those are things that are usually placed on our plans and approved by the Conservation Commission as a resource area.
we're gonna say that there's no regulated floodplain that exists on the
Exactly.
site if it's a zone X.
Then that's
Exactly.
perfectly fine.
Okay, now the isolated areas, did you run through the calculations for isolated land subject to flooding?
That's what I just said. And that's part of the narrative in the ANRAD application.
No, we just talked about the 100-year flood. We didn't talk about, that's bordering land subject to flooding. We didn't talk about ILSF. Did you do the calculations? You had several isolated vegetated
Yes.
wetlands there.
Yes, and then in the narrative, we did say that it did not meet the criteria of bordering land subject to flooding, or isolated land subject to flood.
Oh, okay, so based on what though? Did you do the calculations according to the stormwater handbook,
Yes, ma'am.
the hydrology handbook, and are those included in the file for each isolated area?
I don't know if they're included in the file, but if they're not, we'll get them to you.
Okay, yeah, those definitely need to be. Okay, that's all I had.
All right. So any further questions from the commission or anybody in the audience? So what I said before still holds true. There's a lot of field work to be done. So we're looking at a continuation. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is the 26th of this month. Do you want a continuation that soon, Brian?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
We should have this all resolved for the next meeting, I'm hoping. I should have availability to take a look at this site and be ready to discuss it with the commission at the next meeting.
All right.
Excellent. Thanks, John.
So with that, unless there's further questions, we can entertain a motion for continuation of the hearing for file number 250-1161 until August 26th.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I think you lost out, Dan, so motion by Mark, seconded by Lisa.
That
Roll
was
call.
Joe. Sorry.
Oh, that was Joe?
Joe and Lisa. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to do a sound check on you guys, because somehow it's sounding so like me. But all right, motion by Joe, seconded by Lisa, and beginning roll call vote with Mark and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
Paxton and Lisa,
Aye.
Aye.
and Joe,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. Motion carries, so well,
Great, thanks, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Appreciate it.
you're welcome. Next time, I'm not gonna be here, but other members will be seeing you then.
Okay, who's gonna lead the show that day?
Well, we have a vice chair, so that'll be Lisa.
Okay,
And we like a platoon, we have everybody who can take command anytime.
I will say that it's refreshing to see so many members. You know, I go to various towns, as you know, and you know sometimes we can't even get a quorum on a planning board or a commission. So kudos to all of you for always being here, because it's the faces that I see every time that I'm on here. So it's very refreshing to see a commission so dedicated. And I'm not just saying that, you know, to give you an accolade. It's a true statement, because there's some months where continued for 2-3 months because of a lack of a quorum.
Well, and I've been in this town for more than 40 years, and I'm going to say there are a lot of citizens that believe in participating in government here, and I'm hoping that's true for the whole country.
We would hope and pray that it is, Mr. Chairman.
You bet. All right, thank you. And our next hearing is also a new public hearing concerning Zero Hill Street. It's a notice of intent. We don't have a file number, but it concerns proposal for construction of a approximate 30,000 square foot industrial building. And I guess, you know, I don't know if I'm getting a little demented, or the next line says associated septic system parking 3.2 acres if laydown area. I for the life of me don't understand what an if laydown area is.
I think I meant with laydown area.
Or of.
Or
Right.
of laydown area.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the only laydown area I know is a bed. So what is a laydown area?
Construction laydown area. It's where you put your materials.
A storage area, Julian, storage area.
Okay, I've
It's one of those fancy contractor terms.
all right. So pile of materials. We'll go with that. All right. So do we have a representative of that applicant?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting. I'm also here with Andy Platt, who is from Bowler Engineering. He is the engineer for the project. Do you mind if I share my screen? I have a brief presentation to go through.
Not at all. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Okay. So again, my name is Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting, here on behalf of the applicant at Zero Hill Street in Norton, Massachusetts. As stated before, we are still waiting for our DEP file number. There is comments on it, so it shouldn't be too long. Again, this is just a buffer zone project, so generally they don't take too long to issue file numbers for that. My name is Tom Schutz, again here with Andy Platt from Bowler. Just going through a quick agenda here, we'll start with existing conditions on the site, then we'll move into proposed conditions, and then we'll move into a summary of net changes. It's a table that the commission can view that was also submitted with a notice of intent. And then we'll have a brief stormwater discussion and follow up with any questions or discussion the commission may have. This is going to be a high-level presentation tonight, as this is going to peer review, and again, doesn't have a DEP file number yet, so we expect to be back in front of you for at least a hearing or two. So this is a 14.32 acre undeveloped forest lot. As you can see in the ortho photo where my cursor is currently following, the red outline is the property boundary of the site. It is entirely forested and undeveloped, as I said previously. It is bordered to the west by Hill Street, which is following my cursor right now, and then single-family houses, which are on Hill Street. Bordered to the north by undeveloped land, bordered to the south by undeveloped land, and then there's a industrial complex that's down to the southeast of the parcel. There is not a perennial stream mapped within 200 feet of the locus site. As you can see here, this is over 700 feet away. Additionally, this resource area here is located behind a single-family house located 200 feet away, great outside of the buffer zone that would reach the site itself. So as we move into the resource areas, we're going to start looking at the bordering vegetated wetland that is located on the site. This site plan is oriented with north facing to the left, as you can see here in the compass. So in the northern portion of the site,
pardon me, is there a way you can enlarge the area of interest? Because it's pretty small on the screen. All right, that looks good.
is that better?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's better for me.
So to the north here, we have a large bordering vegetated wetland system that casts the 100-foot buffer zone onto the site, and the 100-foot buffer zone is currently following my cursor right here. So it enters the limit of work, which is shown in this dashed line. We also have in the south of the site and the east of the site, we have a second bordering vegetated wetland, which has an encroachment, which we'll talk about in a little while. That also casts the 100-foot buffer zone following where my cursor is, which would encroach into the limit of the work of the site. Finally, we have an isolated vegetated wetland, which is also a mapped certified vernal pool on the site. We did ILSAT calculations. It does not meet the definition of isolated land subject to flooding. However, it is a certified vernal pool, so we will not be impacting that area at all. As stated previously, there are 3 certified vernal pools in close proximity to the site. We have our first certified vernal pool, which is that isolated section that we just looked at in the last slide, that is located up here in the northwestern corner of the site. We also have 2 certified vernal pools, which are interior to that southern bordering vegetated wetland line, which are located in the south of the site. Finally, we have a potential vernal pool, which is mapped internal to the BVW. Our wildlife biologist took a look at all of these vernal pools on the site, and we took special care to look at the certified vernal pool up here in the north portion of the site, and then additionally in this potential vernal pool located within the BVW, and no vernal pool species were found in the potential vernal pool. And we did find vernal pool species in this one up here, and additionally in the 2 southern vernal pools. But no vernal pool species were actually found in the PVP that's mapped. So we do not expect that to be a vernal pool and have the regulations. But again, we'll look in the coming slides, and we'll see that there actually isn't going to be any impact to that area in general. So the area is also mapped within an ACEC, the entire site. That's also worth mentioning. Take a quick look at some photos. This is the northern certified vernal pool, the large, deep, isolated wetland with uplands around the entire parcel or a portion of it. Here is this flooded area. This is the mapped PVP that is on site. Again, wildlife biologists went out, did not find any vernal pool species in it. And then we have our bordering vegetated wetland, which is following my cursor, shown within the blue flag here, that is in the southern portion of the site. The applicant is proposing a 30,000 or so square foot industrial building, which will be interior of the site outside of the buffer zone. We're additionally going to have 2 access driveways in order to enter the site and park in front of the building, which are going to be located in the northwestern portion of the site, following my cursor right here, and additionally in the southwestern portion of the site here. We're also going to have a 3.3 acre gravel laydown area, which is going to be essentially encompass the majority of the site and around the building. And it's going to follow my cursor. This is where the material gravel laydown area is going to be. And that is going to be a pervious surface to allow stormwater to enter and infiltrate into the ground. Additionally, we're going to have a private fueling station for trucks to fuel up on site without having to go to any gas stations outside of the buffer zone that is shown being outlined by my cursor right here. We're also going to have a private septic system, which is shown in this vicinity right here, also outside of the buffer zone. Stormwater, which will be discussed further by Andy, is going to be managed through deep sump catch basins, hooded catch basins, and 3 isolator rows. The work that's going to be within the buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland is grading along the outside of the parking lot and material laydowns, and then also a portion of some parking lots. But the most of it is going to be pervious work within that buffer zone. And no work is going to be within 25 feet of any bordering vegetated wetland. We also did keep it 25 feet away from the certified vernal pool, which is down here. Additionally, we kept it 25 feet away from our PVP, which we determined not to be a PVP, and this bordering vegetated wetland. This is a graphic showing the impact of buffer zone for our proposed project. This area are the 2 areas where it's actually going to be impacted by pervious or impervious surfaces. That's the dark purple lines. Pervious impacts is shown in this light purple, following my cursor, and then everything shown in green and tan is outside of the buffer zone and outside of the purview of the Conservation Commission. Here is a table showing our net changes of total buffer zone on site. I'll give the commission a second to take a look through this. Most of our work is going to be pervious work, and the majority of the project is outside of the buffer zone.
Tom, when did you say they did the vernal pool investigation?
The vernal pool the vernal pool investigation was done on April 17th of 2024.
And there was only one investigation?
We investigated yes, only one investigation, correct.
Okay.
That being said, we did find vernal pool species in the other 3 certified vernal pools. We did not find anything in the potential vernal pool. Now I'm going to turn it over to Andy to discuss the proposed stormwater management on the site. If you have any questions for me at the end, I'll be answering all of the conservation related questions. The other ones will be directed towards Andy for stormwater and engineering.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So for the record, I'm Andrew Platt with Bowler Engineering in Southborough. Tom, if you can just zoom in just a little bit on that plan, please.
Of course.
So actually, I'm going to start with existing conditions, and actually it might be more helpful to go back to the grading plan. Sorry about that. So under existing conditions, we found that groundwater is relatively shallow, as you might expect from the wetlands to the north and south. But what you might not expect is that the soil is actually pretty well drained in the middle where we're proposing the development. So the middle is pretty good, it's well drained, the water infiltrates pretty well, so there's pretty much very little runoff under existing conditions. So for proposed conditions, we're going to need to mimic that lack of runoff. And what we did is we needed to fill the site to provide underground stormwater storage, and those are going to be provided by underground storm tech units, which you may be familiar with, which are the prefabricated plastic stormwater chambers. And Tom, sorry, if you can go back to the other plan, we'll take a look at the stormwater. So we're proposing 3 systems, which are the rectangles there with the grid patterns on them. They're fairly large for the reason I mentioned before, because we need to retain pretty much all of the water on the site. The one off to the south is a little bit smaller because there's actually more existing runoff going to the south under existing conditions. And so we basically analyzed 3 points of interest, one to the north wetlands, one to the south, being the south wetlands, and then to the vernal pool itself. So all 3 have very little runoff, and we're retaining pretty much the whole 100-year storm basically for under proposed conditions. And that's considering that the gravel laydown area is pretty close to an impervious condition. So it's a rather conservative design where we're considering worst case conditions. We're providing more than 2 feet, well, generally 2 feet of separation to groundwater. The proposed stormwater chambers are going to be basically at the existing ground level to provide that 2 feet of separation. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to need to bring fill in over those systems just to provide a working drainage system. And the drainage will be collected by the grading. All of the grading will drain inward from the site So it's going to go to low points. You can see the lines on the plan indicating drainage pipes. Tom, I don't know if you can zoom in just a little bit to maybe one of those areas. So on the north part of the plan, you can see the line connecting a couple of dots. Those are the catch basins. Yeah, exactly like that. And the roof will go into that north drainage area to the north drainage system. So everything's going to drain inward. It'll be collected by deep sump catch basins, and then those are going to discharge to an isolator row within the stormwater basins. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, but basically an isolator row is just a containment system where one row of the underground chambers are wrapped with filter fabric, and that contains any sediment getting into them. So the combination of deep sump catch basins and the isolator row will be our pre-treatment prior to infiltration. And as I mentioned, the infiltration basins capture pretty much the whole 100-year storm with zero outflow, which means, of course, no TSS outflow either. So I think that's a rather brief overview of the drainage system, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on that.
Yeah, so this term, laydown area, in spite of the fact that I've reviewed many plans, I've never heard that term before. And what you're describing, this is a permanent design. This is what you're referring to as a laydown area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So basically what you're describing is a gravel parking lot area.
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah.
Okay, and it's pervious. And all of that you describe as the pervious surface will have truck traffic but not car traffic. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, there will be trucks on it occasionally, forklifts, equipment like that.
All right. And when we talk about pavement, we often have concern for pollutants dripping off the equipment and so on. But you don't have a way to deal with that in the impervious surface if you're going to have a fair amount of traffic on it, or do you have minimal traffic? I'm just not sure I understand this design.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's going to be, I would lean towards a minimal because it's more for storage. It's going to be a fencing company using the site. So they're going to have, metal and wood and all the materials they need to make fences out there. And so you're going to have, you're going to have workers going between the piles with equipment, but it's not going to be like, a steady stream of traffic or anything like that. Occasionally they're going, out to pick up something from a pile and coming back. So it's not going to be like long-term or heavy-duty, traffic.
So basically, it's a storage yard area.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. And so either John or anybody else have questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Is there an intention for a snow storage on this site or anything if it's going to be an open yard like this?
Yeah, on the site plan, which I don't think we included in the presentation here, we are providing snow storage within the parking areas up towards the road, and then snow would just be, pushed out of the way. Although I believe winter operations are fairly limited, so I think the snow may not be such an issue in the lay down area. So, but that would be just removed and pushed probably to the low points where it could drain to the catch basins.
Yeah, Joe, there was in Google Drive there was a plan that labeled the snow storage areas, and it was pretty extensive.
My concern was the laydown area, if there was a management plan for the laydown area.
Yeah, I'd like to go look at that.
Yeah, we aren't showing dedicated snow storage areas in the laydown area. We could just to demonstrate that they will drain to the low points.
Well,
So
how
just
is
to
that
show,
gonna be
this is-
plowed? How are you going to plow something that's gravel? Because you're going to dislodge it. You're going to dislodge the material every time you plow it because you can't get close enough. I have concerns about that laydown area and the operation of equipment and potential pollutants, and what type of material will be stored there.
Okay, I can get back to you with that and like a plan for snow removal and storage. I feel like I said, I think the snow, winter operations are somewhat limited, but I'll confirm that for you.
I think maybe a 1 or 2 paragraph O&M, simplified O&M for what that storage yard's gonna include will suffice. Does that sound good, Lisa?
Well, I'm not convinced that a pervious surface is the best use of equipment operation. We should talk about the pros and cons of having pavement there so that anything, if there's any spill, any equipment leaks, anything like that, it can at least be captured by a stormwater management system. Was there any reason why you were, I mean, other than cost, wanted to do that type of surface in lieu of pavement back there?
Yeah, it was mostly because it is permeable, so we didn't want to provide a huge, asphalt area with a lot of runoff.
And I would say that would be great if you weren't going to operate equipment and store material over it. But now you're potentially exposing groundwater to whatever's stored it there, and whatever, for instance, we're not going to start policing, is equipment going to be stored there when it's not in use? So we're not in that business. So I would rather see a plan that shows, I mean, you're going to take your best guess, but we have no idea what operations are going to look like. I would like you to consider pavement back there so you can control what is happening to the groundwater. And similarly, I guess while I'm on here, yeah, you're not going to be able to plow the gravel because you're just going to keep dislodging it. And will there be any unconsolidated materials there? Any bags of concrete? Because typically when you put fences up, right, there's quickcrete or concrete, things like that. So, or is that going to be stored inside? So I'd like to see a list of materials that you think you're going to be able to store outside versus inside. And thinking through of how a fence is installed. The next thing is the fuel tank, the fueling operations. I assume that means you're going to put an underground tank in or above ground tank, or what's that going to look like?
So there's actually 2 above ground tanks shown on the site plan right here. They're shown in the rectangles. They're 1,500 gallons total above ground.
And that's on the impervious surface, right? Which should probably be on the pervious surface, because if you have a leak, I assume you're going to have secondary containment because it's over 1350 gallons.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Okay, so I want you to show the secondary containment there. You're going to have to figure out what the risk is of putting it there for a leak to the groundwater versus being able to control it in the catch basin systems. And then what are you doing for construction term runoff in order for stormwater management? Did you provide a SWIP or?
There's an ENS plan in the application documents, which shows silt fence along the perimeter, and I think so it would be along pretty much the line shown as limit of work.
Right, so silt fence along the perimeter is not stormwater management, that's sediment control.
Yeah, you guys are disturbing more than an acre. You guys are going to need a SWIP.
So so we want to see the SWIP. We want to see provisions for erosion prevention, temporary seeding, seeding during winter conditions, winter shutdown. So when I say stormwater management, I'm not just talking about putting up a row of sediment fence and letting it fly. So look to the CGP and prepare a set of plans that would go with the SWIP, so we can approve those. You are subject to the SWIP, so you do owe us that document. And you mentioned the overflow from the bottom left system was to the vernal pool, or no? There's no, because that's considered a critical area, right? So.
Correct. Yeah, there's no overflow directly to the vernal pool.
So where does that system overflow?
If we're talking about the system to the north, it overflows to the north. So if we can zoom in just a little bit on the line.
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
Right there.
Okay, I can see it now. Okay.
That's it. And that overflow is actually for the 100-year storm or greater. I think it's actually over the 100-year storm. So it would never come into use, really.
Okay. So you're not showing any retaining walls. That's all going to be a filled slope. Is that 2-to-1, 3-to-1? And what's your slope treatment going to be?
3-to-1 with seating on it.
Okay. And do you have a velocity dissipation at the end
Yeah.
of those pipes?
Yes, we do. It's based on actually the Connecticut DOT method for doing that.
Okay, John Thomas, is this being peer reviewed for stormwater?
I was actually going to ask Megan, my assistant, to see where we are with this peer review process.
Okay.
Yeah, so I believe that they've agreed to the peer review. I just don't have the check yet, or written confirmation of the agreement. So once I get that, I'll send it over to Weston and Sampson to start the peer review.
All right.
All right, that's all I had for this week.
Okay, so,
So it seems like we're going to have a little bit of time. So I will go out there this week and take a look at all the flags and make sure.
John,
that
do you want me to meet you out there so we can walk the flags together? Or it's up to you?
if you'd like, it's up to you. If you've got availability, we can coordinate tomorrow.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
Yep.
And we'll work with Weston and Sampson, and hopefully they can get us something before the next meeting.
all right, so, any further, I don't think we've asked the audience if there are any questions in the audience. And if we're okay with, everyone on the commission, we can go ahead and ask. Anybody have questions in the audience?
Somebody has their hand up, Julian.
Oh, yes, go ahead. So is that Stewart, that computer?
This is Lori. I live at 51 Hill Street.
Okay,
I've been on this street since the early 70s. And my concern is the vernal pools that are supposedly uninhabited. Like I said, been here since the 70s, walked that property many a times. And I watched what happened when Flatley went into the Norton Commerce and buried ponds and then had to come back in and uncover them. So I really hope someone does a site walk. It's a big concern, really big concern with what's going on across the street with the wildlife. There's a cranberry bog. Where's the runoff going to go with that? With one of their entrances, which is closer to 61 Hill Street. There's just a lot going on across the street with wildlife. And like I said, I watched what happened when Flatley moved in there and bulldozed and filled supposedly ponds that were not habitat. There was nothing there. Well, there were things there. There were otter families. And I remember it. Like I said, been here since the 70s. So I really hope someone takes a good hard look at what's going on across the street from the residents.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, just to touch on that, the site is not mapped for any estimated or rare habitat for wildlife. Additionally, we're not proposing to fill any of the certified vernal pools. We're not even proposing to fill any of the wetlands. We're staying at least 25 feet or greater from all of the wetland resources on the site. Again, if you're looking at the screen, you can see here's our certified vernal pool on the site, and you can see a 25-foot buffer zone around it. So we're not actually proposing to impact any of those. Additionally, this is a fully undeveloped lot. There wasn't any development on our site to begin with. This is a completely new application with an old growth, or I guess like more of a pine forest that's currently growing on it. So there hasn't been any work on our site up to this point.
Right. And again, the concern is the runoff, vernal pools, and the fact that you're talking about trucks coming in and out. I went to a meeting at the Holiday Inn. They also have a showroom. There's going to be vehicles coming in and out of the showroom. Their installers have vehicles in and out. Cars being parked there. Just a concern.
well, just to address, partially your concern, that you can see on this plan, the infiltration units, are rather extensive, and that ensures that the runoff essentially will not change from current conditions to developed conditions. And we have John, who's going to be examining these wetland boundaries and the potential vernal pool, and to ensure that things are not going to be filled that should not be touched.
And
Okay.
to follow up with that, we are having this project peer reviewed for stormwater. And if there are any inconsistencies with our local bylaw or the stormwater handbook, the peer reviewer will let the applicant know.
And I will comment that during the initial development of the Norton Commerce Center, yes, there were errors. And I was on the commission at the time and was involved with the remediation of some of the violations that occurred. And I will also say that there has been an evolution through time of the acceptance of the value of the Wetland Protection Act. And when it was first instituted, there was a lot of resistance to the idea that this would be helpful in the long run. And I would say over the last 40 years, it is much more accepted as something very positive for development in terms of the sustainability of development. Any further questions from anyone?
I have one more, Julian.
Yeah, go ahead.
The material in the laydown area, it says, it's noted to be a gravel material. Of what size is that material, and will it potentially be tracked out in tire picking or anything for the roads?
I really don't have the specifications on the gravel yet, but we can come up with something that meets your requirements.
So I don't necessarily know if it has to meet our requirements, because I don't know what type of equipment, again, we're back to the type of equipment you're gonna have operating on that material. So if it's not large enough stone, you're gonna end up grinding it and compacting it every time. And then you're gonna have material popping through it. Again, I really need you to look at paving that back. I don't really think there's a reason why it should be gravel, for various reasons that I've stated, so. But if you do elect to present that again, we will need a specification on that, and we will need maintenance for that as well.
Yeah, and my concern is, having a light vehicle moving around on gravel is much less of a challenge in terms of long-term maintenance. But if you have something like forklift, which then, first of all, they're very heavy, and second, they then lift a load. I don't see how gravel can support that kind of equipment unless you have some unusual forklift that has extremely broad tires to distribute the weight per square foot. So it just seems odd to me if you're going to use that kind of equipment. I suppose you could use a tractor with broader tires that has a forklift attachment, but it's still a maintenance issue if it's gravel. So we'll eagerly look at proposals in the future. So if there are no further questions or discussion, I think we can consider a motion for continuation. And I think our next meeting is the 26th of this month. And I assume that would be acceptable for continuation.
Yes, we would like to request a continuance to the next hearing.
So
All
moved.
right.
File number yet? Oh, sorry, hold on.
No file
No,
number at this
okay.
point.
Sorry, Dan.
That's all right.
So I think we do have unless there are further questions, we did have a motion by Dan and second coming from
Second.
From Lisa. So roll call vote beginning with Mark and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And, Joe and Paxton.
Aye. Aye.
And Lisa?
Aye.
I'll throw in a aye. All right, so next item on our agenda is, continued public hearing, Wading River Estates, and I believe, everything was reviewed, and the only thing we had to do with this is close and then review an amended order of conditions a little later on. But I'm gonna take a very brief break and turn on some lights here so I can see.
John, were you waiting for anything? Now I can't remember why we continued it.
Well, we continued it, I think, because
The time frame.
we
that's right.
were bordering exactly on 3 weeks, and
Yep.
we needed. And so I think we're going to entertain a motion to close the hearing, file number 250-1052 for Wading River Estates request for an amended order.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by, that was Mark, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, we got it. So roll call, Mark and Joe, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Dan and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. So I guess we can go ahead and do the amended order now, because our next group is certificates and so on.
That would be great, Mr. Chairman.
Well, there's not much to it. Since you had a prior order.
Understood.
So, any questions or comments on the draft?
No, John, I think you did a nice job laying out what the delta was, what changed. So, looked good.
I try to make it easy for everybody.
Mhm.
It is
John.
easy. It is easy. And I'll tell you that the sequence of events has made it like from a nightmare into, did I say a daydream? Not that nice. But, so if there are no comments, we can entertain a motion to, approve the draft order for the amendment for file number 250-1052.
I'll make a motion to issue the draft. You get me saying draft. I'll make a motion to issue the amended order for file 250-1052.
Second.
We have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Mark. Roll call vote. Mark and Joe, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And Paxton?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So motion carries.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You
Thanks,
bet.
Brian.
Thank you.
John, I'll wait for your email on that one. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
We'll send it to you.
All right, appreciate it. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
So next item on the agenda is a request for a full COC for file number 250-1156, 61 Main Street. And I believe this is the Honeydew Donuts site with regard to the changes that were made. And this is kind of a in transition, as I understand it. Is that a fair statement, John?
Yes. Eric, do you want to touch upon it?
Yeah, excuse me, no problem. So for the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering, representing the applicant tonight. Yes, we were before you a little while back. It was basically an after the fact notice of intent for some improvements that were made to the parking facility at the Honeydew Donuts. The whole thing that spurred all of this is that there's a potential sale of the property and it's slated to be redeveloped. So I think the sticking point with what we talked about last time was with regard to stormwater management improvements on the site. And we had kind of gone back and forth, and the order of conditions that was granted included conditions that whoever is in control of the property within 12 months of the issuance of the after the fact notice of intent would bring forward a new design showing a improved stormwater system that meets compliance with current regulations. And another condition that says that within 18 months of that same date, it would be permittable through the Conservation Commission. So we did provide with the request for order of conditions, since there was no work to be done because it was after the fact, we did provide this document, and I will share my screen real quickly because I think this really is the crux of the whole thing. This is an acknowledgement letter of understanding that specifically quotes both of those conditions. Condition 10 stating that we will bring forward a new design within 12 months of issuance, which would be June 25th, 2025. And condition 41 that says that within 18 months of this issuance, which would be Christmas of 2025, we will expect to be approved by the Conservation Commission. And it has been signed by both the current owner, which is Richard Bowen for BRI, and the potential buyer, which is Mr. Anthony Rosito. So it's signed by both interested parties. It is a continuing condition that, let's just say BRI sold to somebody other than Mr. Rosito, it would then be on them. We just feel very confident in this particular acquisition, so we have Mr. Rosito sign this as well, to hopefully give the commission some level of comfort with what our plan is. And really, that's it.
So John, it sounds like we can just go ahead and issue this certificate of compliance on file number 250-1156.
Yes, because these are perpetual conditions and they'll continue.
All right, looking for a motion.
So I'll make a motion to issue a full COC for 250-1156.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Dan. Mark and Joe, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dan and Lisa
Aye.
Aye.
and Paxton.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So motion carries.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you, Eric.
Have a good night.
Next is a request for a certificate of compliance for file number 250-1013, which was the single-family house, and it says in the report that everything is in order, and the area to be stabilized has been mowed twice, meets closeout requirements. So looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to issue a full COC for 250-1013.
Second.
We have a motion made by Lisa, seconded by Paxton. Mark and Joe, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dan and Lisa
Aye.
Aye.
and Paxton?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, motion carries. And then we have a request for an extension, file number 250-1017, Somerset Street, 21 Somerset Street. I guess it's a house that there's some bumps in the road. So the extension request is for 3 years.
This will be the last extension that's allotted for this. Otherwise they'll have to refile, just so that we have that for the record.
So there's no reason to issue, not to issue the 3-year, right, John?
No,
Okay.
there's no reason not to. You
Okay.
can.
I mean, we could issue, 1 year or 2. But
Yeah.
okay, but there's no reason not to issue the 3. Okay.
The the property is going through some other litigation, so I don't know how long that's gonna take, so they wanted to be safe for having a 3-year.
All right, I will make a motion to issue a 3-year extension for file 250-1017.
Second.
A motion by Lisa, seconded by Dan, Mark, and Joe.
Aye.
Aye.
Dan and Lisa,
Aye.
Aye.
and Paxton,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. Motion carries. So we don't have any, other orders to address other than the amended orders. Draft minutes. They were short and sweet, not too much in them. We had a light meeting last time. I have no comments or questions.
So make a motion to accept the draft minutes, the minutes as drafted, excuse me, for 7/22/2024.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Mark, and Joe. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And, Paxton, I think you were right. You were absent, and I'll throw in an aye. So that.
Nice work, Megan.
Always,
You make it.
always nice work. So we had briefly talked about 258 Plain Street, but why don't you just take it away?
I'll let Craig take it away. Craig, you there?
Yep. I'll share screen. Hang on a second.
So this is 258 Plain, not 92 East Main?
Well, that's a separate discussion.
Okay.
Oh. Hopefully it comes up and showing, oh, there we go. That show up on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, so 258 Plain Street, we were hired to do an addition on this existing barn. This house is shown on the assessors as being built in 1784. Looking at the older Google Earth, this barn existed at the same time. It was a gravel drive. It's hard to determine, looking at it, what it constituted, but it's now paved. The resource areas are the Mulberry Meadow Brook, with the channel out here, but the mean annual high water mark here we flagged up. The BVW in green. The orange dashed line is the floodplain at 73.4. There's also the Norton Resource Protection District that scales about here on the property. So I know John had gone on vacation before he could review the flags. We had Brad Holmes of ECR, Environmental Consulting and Restoration, review our flags, and he agrees with the locations. So the river bank had, the river line has a 100-foot buffer zone here in blue, and then the 200-foot riparian here. So the work that we're proposing falls in here, but then, as John pointed out, when you look at different maps throughout, my client bought the lot in 2016. All of these are, begin at their chain link, or this is all fence, and everything in there is now AstroTurf, artificial grass. Then there's lawn around the house that pre-existed, would be assumed. And so we're counting this as degraded. We have this portion of the paved driveway would also be within the 200-foot buffer zone. So we have a total of 97,524 square feet of riverfront area on the lots. And the degraded area, we did not see any within the 100-foot buffer zone, but within the 200-foot, we have 9,304 square feet. That's all this astroturf. We're not counting the building. We are including this shed, but this shed shows up on the old prior to 1996. And then the barn today exists to about this line. I can zoom in a little bit. About half of it collapsed several years ago, and what they're looking to do is expand it to what I'm showing this cross-hatched area. But taken into pre-existing 1996, and then the degraded areas we have today, we're at 9,304 square feet. This additional, if they did replace the existing barn that collapsed and then expanded it as they're showing, we'd be at 9,586 square feet, or 9.83% of the riverfront area. But the other concern is that the scallop line is the heavy tree line that we located. So there's, between here and the fences, land has been cleared. There is a garden in here that should have been on the plan. It's roughly in this area right here. It's a raised bed garden. But from here, the pavement from outside the building, so areas have been cleared, but at this time we have not really had a chance to go through and see if there are areas that are not lawn at this time, but they have been cleared, but could be allowed to go back to natural, and then what would be required to mitigate those cleared areas that we assume happened since all this work in the yard went up, is 7,600 square feet. So, as I said, we would, if mitigation is required, we'll have Brad Holmes review what is to be planted, areas that could be left to go back to natural. At this time, the only construction would be this replacement of the portion of the barn that collapsed, expanded by about 260 square feet.
So you're at, I need clarification, you're at the 9.8%, so everybody, the threshold is 10%, right?
Correct.
But then you're saying they went over because they added the 7670, so what is the actual number?
Well, the cleared area, the worked-in area would be
So it would be the 9586 plus the 7670.
Correct.
So that's what I would like to see on the plan that shows you're over the 10%.
Correct. As I
Okay,
said,
Yep.
I have not had a chance to address the plan completely, and go ahead. Sorry.
so what is that shaded in?
That's existing pavement. And looking at the 1995 Google Earth, you can see that there is gravel where the driveway was at one point, but now this entire area is paved. But this is within the 200-foot. So that is pavement at this time. The circle in the middle is they left the tree in place and they paved around it.
So the additional clearing that's the 7620, it's all in the outer. So that's what's pushing you over the 10%, correct?
Correct.
So we should be looking for mitigation in the outer, I would think. Do you agree with that, Sean?
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest, is mitigation within the 100 to 200 foot riverfront area.
Oh, I meant the other way. The
Oh, you mean
100.
the other way?
Well,
The
because
0 to 100?
No, from the 100 to the 200, sorry.
Yeah,
The
sorry,
outer,
that's what I meant.
The outer
Yeah, the 100.
riparian, okay.
The outer
okay.
riparian, sorry.
Yes.
100 to
So-
200.
Yes, so if you could just add that note that we just talked, not the note, but just the total that you're
Total
over.
area.
Yeah, and then show what you're gonna mitigate. So is the easiest thing to do is to remove that pavement? Why was that area paved? The shaded area?
Well, it obviously goes back to where the barn is proposed to be built. When you look at pre-96, it's hard to determine where the gravel driveway was. It's obvious it was in this area, but I don't know we're extended to and what they've done outside of that since 1996.
So other than that, there's no space to get rid of that pavement. So it's like, all right, we're gonna either let you build the barn extension, or you're or get rid of the pavement, right? So it's gonna be one or the other in the end, because that's what's putting you over.
Right.
What's
Right.
the area for the pavement again, Craig?
Just the pavement?
Yeah.
1,400 square feet.
Oh,
So 1,400.
1,400. Yeah, so that's not even enough, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you're gonna have to come up with more. John, does this delineation match the project that we just approved? Well, not just approved, but that one
You mean
drawn
the
out.
one that's to the south?
Yeah.
It was the same delineator that looked and reviewed all these flags.
Okay. Okay. So we're sure that's it.
Yes.
And how come there's no topo? I'm seeing one. I'm just in the flood zone for topo.
There is topo on the map. I think Craig just turned the layers off.
Good enough to make it clear. We did do topography. That's how we did map out the floodplain here. We have topography across the site, and the mitigation plan would show that.
Okay.
Just wanted to make it more clear
Okay.
what we're showing.
Yep. I mean, so it doesn't look like there's any room in the inner riparian to. Is a break in the vegetation there, right below the.
Yeah,
Or-
right.
You said there was a garden there, but what about the other break there that's to the, yeah, right there.
Right there.
Yeah, is that like a path or something? I don't know what that is.
Beginning of a path, yeah.
Yeah. So,
So again, outside of the fences here, this is either lawn or vegetation that has been taken down, but maybe hopefully not destroyed and could be allowed to return to natural as well. But if mitigation is required, then as I said, we would have Brad Holmes come up with a scheme.
yeah, reverting something to lawn does not take it out of, so you look at the degraded state, right? So something that lacks topsoil, that's the regulation.
Right.
So we would look to something that lacks topsoil. So just having some existing area grow back is not mitigation. You have to look to something that lacks topsoil, that's considered degraded, and restore that to a non-degraded state in order to meet that 10% threshold. So I think that's what we'd be looking for.
Okay. Understood.
I don't know if there's going to be 7,600 square feet of degraded surface area out there, though. After going out there and seeing the site,
No, I
so
would try
that's
that.
That's the challenge. I think that the mitigation alternative is going to have to be, and this is the challenge on why it's important to come to the Conservation Commission. So, these sort of instances don't occur. And, I don't know if a vegetative enhancement is going to solidify relief, it's a hard one. And that's why I was saying, is there any way that proposed structure could potentially be, positioned outside the riverfront area, or a majority of it outside the riverfront area as an alternative, instead of it having, in the riverfront area, have it be to the right in the existing parking lot or the existing pavement right there where your cursor was.
Yeah, I could talk to my client about expanding it this way, put
I
this
mean-
outside and alongside the existing pavement.
The majority of that way would put this structure outside. You'd be able to get a bulk majority of it, by putting more, surface area within our regulatory resource area, which the riverfront is. It's a resource area itself. It puts a damper on the commission to really allow and accept, this. And, there are some certain unique circumstances where the commission is allowed to, provide relief, but those are far in between. I mean, like a limited project, they may be able to do that, but not not something like this. I mean, there has to be some sort of significant mitigation to make up that disturbed area.
Right.
So basically, you look at the standards for the riverfront area and it goes through alternatives analysis. So to John's point, why does the barn have to be expanded in that direction? Why can't it be expanded in a different direction? So those are things we'd be looking at, or you should be looking at in terms of meeting the alternatives analysis for the impacts.
Okay, so we're gonna need a extension or a continuance to look into this.
Well, this is a discussion.
This is in a public hearing, yeah.
Yeah, this is a discussion.
Okay.
And I don't know, is it going to be, eventually a filing? Is that the idea?
There's two options. I mean, they can do an after action filing, or we could, do this under an enforcement. I think, for instance, for this, if they could propose the building outside of the riverfront area, or majority of it outside the riverfront area, and then, do some sort of vegetation restoration, similar to the other topic that's on our agenda, we might be able to work with them with a friendly enforcement order to kind of restore and revegetate the area, and basically just say that we're putting a cap on any future disturbance for the property. I don't know. I'd position that to the commission and see if they were comfortable with doing that, but that's the only alternative I see potentially working out for this situation. I don't know if everyone else
I
agrees.
kind of think it does need to be in an order because we need to somehow document and condition that this site is maxed out and nothing else can happen in the riverfront on it after this. This is it. They're done. They're cooked.
Well, the enforcement order gets recorded with their deed.
Okay. But does it have a condition on it? Can you condition?
There are conditions you can put in there.
Okay. So I guess let's get the revised
Plan and then
plan
discuss.
and the mitigation, and then figure out how we're gonna
Okay.
permit it after the fact. So, okay. So Craig, do you have enough to?
Yes, yes, we can proceed from there.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And, is there any new information about 92 East Main Street, or I thought that was potentially going to be a filing as well.
Megan, any update to that?
No, I haven't heard from anybody in regards to that project.
Well, I think if that's the case, then we should have a discussion about maybe making this the friendly order, I guess, enforcement order, and not so friendly enforcement order moving forward.
Somebody remind me which one what this was.
This is behind what used to be Midway Garage.
Oh, okay, right.
And it involves,
I remember.
I think it involved both inner and outer riparian zones. So, from my recollection.
They did some millings, and then they were coming in with a restoration plan, and I wasn't at the past meeting, but my understanding is that you all had concerns with them parking in an area that was going to be part of the restored area. That was what I got the gist of.
Yeah.
And that was not the intent. The intent was either they have two options. They restore the area and figure out somewhere else they're going to park, or come in for an after action notice of intent and design an area where they can park. So those are the two options that I laid out to them. So.
Have you followed up with them? Could you follow up with them?
Oh, I'm going to follow up with them tomorrow.
Okay.
And probably let them know that we'll be issuing another enforcement order to them. That's not going to be so friendly.
Okay.
And, we try to give people benefit of the doubt to be willing to work with them. And they don't show up. They don't follow up. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I will be charging them $300 too.
All right.
By the way, Dan, I like your purple background.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it was, it just happened to be there. I was on a different screen earlier and that didn't work out, so sorry about that. Yeah, purple.
Well, I was just saying that you're representing Mr. Norton today.
Mr. Norton, that's right. Hopefully I didn't miss any votes. Are there any votes where I was not there? Because I think I missed like 5 minutes or something of,
No, I think you're in between everything.
oh, good,
Yeah.
good.
You missed out on reading the preamble.
Sorry about that.
He did that on purpose.
I'm not being paid enough.
So anything else on old business, new business that we want to talk about?
I'll leave that up to Megan. Anything to report?
No, everybody wants to talk to you as soon as you leave for vacation. So that's
It's always how it is. Did you tell them that I have a life outside of work?
Yeah, they didn't seem to believe that.
Wow.
But no, nothing new or major going on.
Okay.
All right, well, I will not be able to attend the next meeting.
Me either.
I will be in Romania mixing cement.
Megan will be on vacation.
Turkey and Greece.
It's hot.
Yeah, I was looking at the weather. I was not looking forward to it, but we're on the coast, so.
Yeah, well, it was,
Megan, does Johnny know the Greek word for steak sub or?
No, I've been learning all the Greek.
Oh.
they speak English there too.
So maybe he'll come back with some Greek burger ideas. There you go.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
All
All right. Well, until next time.
All right.
So Megan, is it a cruise?
It is, yes. We fly out to Athens on Saturday.
All right.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good night, everybody.
I think that was, I think that was the adjourning,
The bell.
the bell. All right, I will not be here next time, so, Lisa.
Enjoy vacation.
Yeah, I'll be driving the bus. I hope to God I'm on time because I have to go to Boston that day to go to the office. So I should
Okay.
be
Well, if you're not, that means Mr. Pearson, you're the next one in
I'm
line.
next in line. No, I should be. I'm gonna try to leave
Okay.
on time.
I think we'll be all right. So,
Okay.
all right. Take care, everybody.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Good night.